Welcome everyone to another Lottie Files animation in After Effects. I'm your host, Elias Sorrentopoulos. For this Lottie Files animation, I will show you how to import multiple paths from Illustrator, create shape layer paths inside After Effects, animate those together with heart shapes, and export all the animation to a fully supported Lottie Files. Up next. So before we start this off inside After Effects, some important recommendations for the paths you will import from Adobe Illustrator. The first recommendation is to plan ahead on how you want your paths to appear in terms of order, as they would have been written. So when you import them inside After Effects, they also appear in order. So for example, this path will appear first, this will appear second, this one third, and so on. Another recommendation is to give your paths enough real estate in between them so you will have room for multiple stroke sizes. So for example, I spaced some of the letters so the curve is not too close, and a good example is this letter O. I also gave enough breathing room between each of these letters. Lastly, I numbered the paths inside the layers panel, and that will help me down the road adding the appropriate number of paths inside After Effects. So as you can see, there is a lot of back and forth between those two applications, Adobe Illustrator and Adobe After Effects, till you see what works on your end. So inside After Effects, I have already created a new composition named Right on Lottie, and looking inside the composition settings, this composition is a square composition with the width and height set to 1000 pixels. As for the duration, this is a quite long duration. I would definitely trim this at the very end. So the plan is for the layer paths coming from Illustrator to be modified inside After Effects using the shape layer operations. So for that, I will right click to create a shape layer. Then I will press Enter Return and rename this to Wonderful like so. All right. Another thing I'm going to do is I will make sure that the layer switches is enabled so we can use the Add menu in the timeline panel. So in this case, I will go ahead and click on the Add Fly-Add menu and add a path operator. Now I will go ahead and switch back to Adobe Illustrator, and with the selection tool, I will marquee select all of these paths, go up to the Edit menu, copy these into the clipboard, switch back to After Effects, and up in the Edit menu, I will go ahead and paste those in. What just happened here is that After Effects follows its original behavior and paste a bunch of masks. Here are the masks right here. But we only need to have shape layer paths and not masks. And that's one thing. Another thing is that we need to paste all the paths coming from Adobe Illustrator and maintain their relationship, which means we need to create the same number of paths as we have created inside Illustrator. So the question is, what is the right number of paths to be created inside After Effects? Well, in my case, I have already numbered the layers inside the layers panel inside Illustrator, so I know the number of paths ahead of time. In the event you haven't done that, all you have to do is count the number of masks pasted inside the shape layer. As you can see here, the total number of masks is 12. So in this case, I don't need the masks. I will go ahead and press the delete key to remove all these masks. Select this path, and the total number is 12, which means I need an additional 11. So I will go ahead and duplicate all of these paths. Then Shift Select, open those up, and then target the paths inside by holding the Control key or the Command key. Then I will go ahead and paste this in. And all I'm going to do is just group those all together. So all of these paths are under one group. In this case, I will press Enter Return and just rename this to group. That's one thing. Then I will target the shape layer and then again click on the Add Flat menu and I will add a stroke operator. Here's the stroke. Let's go ahead and change a couple of things here. First of all, I will go ahead and use the eyedropper and use a specific color of my choice. That's one thing. I will up the stroke width. I'm going to go for like 12 here. And what else can I do? Well, under the line cap options for the strokes, for the line cap, instead of butt cap, I'm going to set this to round cap. As you can see here, this rounds the edges. And for the line join, instead of a mighty join, I will go ahead and use the line join for rounded corners. Great. These are the two things I want to do. This is one thing. I will go ahead and duplicate this shape layer. And for this one, what I'm going to do is inside the content, inside the stroke, I'm going to change, first of all, the stroke color to this and definitely bring the stroke width down to perhaps 4. And that looks pretty good. And now we are ready to go to the next step and animate those strokes. All right, so let's go ahead and animate those stroke paths by adding a new operator. In this case, I will target this shape layer here, and then I will click on the Add Flat menu, and then add a Trim Paths operator. In this case, I will open this up, and I will animate the Start property. So I will click on Stopwatch to create the first keyframe, and I will bring this up to 100%. Then I will scrub the current time indicator to perhaps here, and then zero this back. Great. Let's go ahead and do a run preview by pressing the spacebar on the keyboard. And here's the animation. It looks fine. It's just a little too slow. So I will bring the second keyframe a little closer to the first keyframe. And then again, press the spacebar for another run preview. That looks fine. Let's go ahead and do the same thing inside the second shape layer. Again, I will click on the Add Flat menu and bring up another Trim Paths operator. Again, I will do exactly the same thing, but I need to time this correctly. So I would say around here, the second Trim Paths operator will start animate on the Start property. So I will click on the stopwatch to create the keyframe here. I'm going to bring this to 100%. And then I will scrub the current time indicator and then zero this. Let's go ahead and do another quick run preview. This begins and then the other one follows. Great. Now looking inside the Lottie Files website and their supported features, we used the Trim Paths operator. As you can see, this is supported all across all the devices. We also use the line cap and the line join for the strokes. That also being supported and switching back to After Effects. This is because the paths inside Adobe Illustrator had enough breathing space between them, and that's why we can use multiple strokes and be able to animate both. So next up, let's go ahead and animate some heart shapes. This is the heart shape that I have imported into the project file. And by the way, inside the exercise folder, you will find both of these heart shape and the original wonderful Illustrator path in the event that you want to follow along. All right, so I will go ahead and click and drag and bring this into the timeline. This is one thing. Then I will go inside the layer menu, create, and I'm going to use the create shapes from vector layer. Now, as you can see, this is a shape layer. which means I don't need the original. I'm going to press delete on the keyboard. As for the heart outlines, I will press enter return to rename this to just heart. Enter return. This is one thing. Another thing that I always like to do is to center the anchor point right in the center, because most of the animations take place from the very center. So I always make this as a habit, which means I will go up to the layer menu, transform, and I'm going to use the center anchor point in layer content, or you can use the keyboard shortcuts. Great. Now I need to scale this down a bit, which means I'm going to press the letter S on the keyboard for the scale property. I'm going to scale this down quite a bit to perhaps, let's see, 35%. There we go. I'm going to bring this up right there. So I want the heart to animate from this point on and all the way up. So I need to time this correctly, which means when this one ends, the heart begins animating. So for that, I will press the letter P on the keyboard for the position property. I will click on the stopwatch to create the first keyframe, and then I will scrub the current time indicator to perhaps here, and then click and drag this upwards. And I'm holding the shift key as I do, like so. All right, perhaps a little higher. There we go. So this is one thing. Another thing is we need to do is we need to add an opacity here, because when this one goes up here, it disappears. So I will use the opacity property, and we are here on the very last keyframe of the position. So we'll click on the stopwatch. That will be the last frame for the opacity, which means this needs to be set to 0. And then we need to go back to the previous visible keyframe, and the keyboard shortcut is the letter J on the keyboard. And for this one, the opacity needs to be back on 100. When I do a quick run preview, as you can see, this works, but we have a couple of issues. First of all, this is a little slow. And second of all, the heart here should actually have an opacity of 0%. So I'm going to zoom in quite a bit here. And I'm just going to go one keyframe before and add another keyframe for the opacity and bring this back to 0. This is one thing. Another thing is I will select these two keyframes and bring them closer. Let's go ahead and do a run preview by pressing the space bar. I think it looks good. All right, I can make this even faster here. Something along those lines. Okay, so this is one thing. Another thing is that this layer is quite long. You see, it only begins here and ends here. All right, so I will scrap the current time indicator to perhaps right there, and I'm going to trim the endpoint. And for that, I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut, which is the Alt or Option and left brackets on the keyboards. Then I will scrap the current time indicator right there, and I will trim the out point, which is the Alt, Option, and right brackets. Okay, so now the layer is just very short. This is exactly what I wanted. Okay, so this is one thing. Now we need to pre-compose this because we're going to actually duplicate this layer 3 more times. So I will right click and pre-compose this to a new composition. Go ahead and name this composition Heart Comp. Just make sure that you move all attributes into the new composition, and don't forget to check this, which is to adjust composition duration to the time span of the selected layers, and then click OK. Great. Now, this is one thing. If I was to select this and move it around, as you can see, the size of this actually is the size of the whole composition, which is quite big. So in this case, what we need to do is we need to crop the composition to the region of interest. And how do we do this? Well, we're going to double click to go into the heart composition itself. And then I will use this tool here, the region of interest. Click on that. I'm just going to click and drag to define the composition. Now, this is not done yet till I know exactly where it ends, which means I need to bring this up here. Even more. So let me click on that. I guess I need more space on the top here. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. But let's see the bottom. It begins right there, which means I need to bring this up around here. So let's go ahead and do a quick run preview by pressing the space bar. That looks great. Everything seems to be okay. Now that I like the region of interest, I will go ahead up to the composition menu and use the crop comp to region of interest. There we go. This has been trimmed, which is great. Then I'm going to go back to the right on Lottie here. Here it is. Of course, now this needs to go a little higher up because we trimmed this composition here. And let's do a quick run preview. Beautiful. Okay, so let's go ahead and create some duplicates here. So I will select this one and Control-D, Command-D for the duplicates. Offset this in time. Let's bring this perhaps right here. Create another duplicate. Offset this one and then offset it here too. And then duplicate the very original here and just bring this around there. So let's go ahead and do a quick run preview like so. Things are looking good. I like what I see. And now we need to trim the whole composition because if you remember, the whole composition was set to 30 seconds, which is quite long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the cure time indicator to exactly where I want to for the work area to end. So I would say it will be around here. I'm just give a small buffer space here. And then I'm going to press the letter N on the keyboard for the end of the work area. And then right click and then use trim comp to work area. There we go. Let's press the home button and then press the space bar for the quick run preview to look at the very final here. And now we are ready to go to the next step and export this as a Lottie file and as a Lottie animation. Now it's time to export our animation using the Lottie Files plugin and extension, something that I have already installed and covered on a previous tutorial. So in this case, I will go up to the window menu and I'm going to use extensions and I will bring up the Lottie Files extension. As you can see here, I have only these two compositions and that are populated right inside this window. So I was just going to render out this right on Lottie. So I'm going to click on this arrow here. This is going to render this out. As you can see, things look great. And all I'm going to do is, of course, upload this to my private animation account. So this is uploading as we speak. And that gets uploaded to, as I mentioned before, to my own account. So in this case, I will go ahead and click on my private animations. And here is the Lottie animation that I just worked and exported. So here's another Lottie file animation idea using some simple After Effects techniques. There is so much you can do. So give it a go and see what it takes you. Well, thank you everyone for visiting my channel, spending time with me, developing your skills. Do not forget to subscribe and most of all, share the knowledge.